Good evening and welcome to the City of Auburn study session for August 14th, 2023. Call this meeting to order. This evening's meeting is being held both virtually and in person. Sean, will you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor J. Rush.
I'm here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Malenga.
Here.
Councilmember Riggs.
Here.
Councilmember Trump Manuel.
Here.
Thank you, Sean. I don't believe we have an agenda modification today.
No, Chair.
Thank you. Council will move into the council discussion items. The first one is ordinance number 6913, and it will be presented by Director Gaub.
Thank you, and I'm actually going to have Amber Olds come up and present both this item and the next item to you. Amber is our right-of-way specialist with the city.
Thank you. Hi, Amber.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and council members. I'm here tonight to discuss draft ordinance number 6913 for franchise agreement number FRN 22-0004 for Mox Networks LLC for dark fiber infrastructure. Under Title 20 of the Auburn City Code and consistent with federal and state law, companies that want to locate their communications facilities in the city's public ways are required to obtain a franchise agreement with the city. Mox's franchise application was reviewed and found to be complete per the city's code requirements. Mox is proposing to install dark fiber infrastructure facilities in existing conduit duct bank in West Valley Highway. The agreement is site-specific and only for facilities that Mox is proposing to locate in the public way of West Valley Highway. Any future expansion of the facilities outside of this location would require an amendment to the franchise agreement and approval by City Council. Future alterations, repairs, upgrades, and improvements to their facilities in their current locations would require the applicant to obtain construction permits, which are managed through the city's permitting processes that are a requirement of the franchise agreement. The agreement would be valid for a term of 15 years. The franchise language is generally consistent with our standard form, but there are some unique considerations that have been addressed in the franchise language. They're as follows. The existing conduit duct bank in West Valley Highway that Mox is proposing to install its facilities in is owned by a company called Rogers Telecom. Rogers does not currently have a franchise agreement with the city, but is required to have one for the facilities, and Rogers is aware of this. The Mox franchise language addresses the risk that Mox is assuming in proceeding with this franchise without Rogers having secured their franchise agreement. Separate from this franchise, the city is working with Rogers to secure their own franchise, and they have submitted an application. We received that on July 14th, and it's currently under review and in process. Mox has not currently disclosed that they will be leasing their facilities to others. However, the franchise agreement will require them to disclose this if they intend to lease their facilities. They're required to disclose it to the city. They do not currently intend to provide services to customers within the city. The city does have other franchisees that do not directly serve customers within the city. In bringing this franchise agreement forward to council for review, city staff have verified that it meets the code requirements that council must base your determination on. The public hearing to consider the application and hear public comment is currently scheduled for August 21st at the city council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any limit to the number of franchisees that can be in a particular conduit?
I believe that would depend on the size of the conduit, who owns the conduit, and that, the infrastructure itself. The city doesn't necessarily regulate that. It's not within our purview. So.
Okay.
Any other questions, Council? Thank you, Amber. You can move on to the next one.
Thank you. So ordinance number 6916 would grant a second extension of time for the applicant, Ralph Pazzi, to complete conditions for permitting and construction associated with right-of-way vacation number VAC 21-0002, which was previously approved by City Council on December 20th, 2021 under ordinance number 6839. The vacation is for a portion of West Main Street east of Lund Road Southwest. The area is shown on the map on the screen in red and also on page 37 and 46 of your agenda packet. Mr. Pazia initially applied for the right-of-way vacation in April of 2021, proposing to incorporate the right-of-way into adjacent parcel to increase the parking area for the trucking company located on that parcel. Conditions associated with the vacation approval included moving the existing fencing to the current property line as it exists prior to the vacation, obtain a grading permit to remove gravel and construct proper site improvements for storm drainage to storm inlet structures, parking, lighting, and landscaping per city requirements and engineering design and construction standards. Obtain required permits and replace the dome storm inlet structures with standard grates and install concrete aprons around storm inlet structures per the city's standard design details. And make payment of required compensation to the city for the vacated right-of-way in the amount of $45,000. The original deadline for completion of the conditions required for the vacation was December 20th, 2022. The applicant requested an extension in November 2022 that was approved under ordinance number 6893 on December 5th, 2022. And it extended the initial deadline for completion of the conditions for permitting and construction to September 20th, 2023, next month. The first extension still required that the applicant complete the condition for payment of the compensation for the right-of-way by the original deadline of December 20th, 2022. They have completed that condition. The applicant has requested a second extension to September 30th of 2024, as they've indicated that due to unresolved permitting issues related to on-site storm drainage and wetland buffer issues associated with extending the parking area, they will not be able to complete the permitting and construction conditions of the vacation by the current deadline. The applicant has provided an estimated timeline for resolving the permitting issues, including an estimated timeline for submittal of required revisions to the permit applications and a revised schedule to start construction once they obtain the permits and complete the construction. City staff have reviewed the applicant's request and proposed schedule for completion and support the additional extension due to the need to resolve the on-site storm drainage and wetland buffer issues. Such staff support is with the understanding that if the extension is approved, the applicant will work diligently to complete the required permitting and construction conditions within the extension time frame and proceed in a timely and expeditious manner, as further extensions related to the storm drainage and wetland buffer issues would not be supported by city staff. Ordinance number 6916 amends ordinance number 6893 and 6839 and extends the time for the applicant to complete the permitting and construction conditions associated with right-of-way vacation VAC 21-0002 to September 30th, 2024. Council is supportive of the request for a second extension from the applicant, then city staff intends to bring ordinance number 6916 forward at the next city council meeting on August 21st for council's determination. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council have any questions? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'm curious. So we've had two extensions. This is a request for a third, correct?
We've had one extension.
Oh,
This
we've
is a
had
request
one.
for
Okay, I
a
thought I heard
second.
you say that. And did I hear you say that the city staff would not recommend a subsequent extension? Is that correct?
City staff is supportive of this second extension, but would not be supportive of a third extension related to wetland buffer issues and on-site storm drainage, if there's any delays due to that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Councilmember Baldwin.
If we provide for the extension, does that impact any city projects or anything else that you're aware of?
I don't believe it does, but Director Gaub can answer that.
Yeah, no, there's no impact to any city projects that we're aware of. It's purely their development to expand their parking on their site.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Amber, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, next we move into municipal services discussion items. And since I'm the chair of that municipal services, I will move on and invite both Director Faber and Julie Kruger and I don't know
Larson.
who you are.
I'm Matt Larson.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jayraj, Mayor Nancy, and council members. I'm going to do a little update on the Auburn Avenue Theater tonight, and I was thinking about this afternoon, that when you have a mission and a goal, you have to have a plan in place. And I have a passion for getting this theater reopened in our downtown. In 1926, the Auburn Depot was built 100 years ago in 2026. That gives us 2.5 years to get this done and celebrate our 100th birthday. And we are the blight in downtown. We need to figure out how to accomplish this. We're going to kick that off tonight with just a little bit of background history. Julie knows everything about the operations of that thing over the last dozen years. And Matt's joining us tonight because our Public Works Department, he's an engineer with the city, and they're doing a project in the same area that we hope to envelope into this so that this two-humped camel looks like it's going to work in the end. So we took over operations in 2007. It was a lease with the former owners, the Douglas family, and then the city purchased it outright. And I don't remember how many, in the middle of that process. And so since that time, we've been operating it, as many of you know, as a just as a theater that had tribute bands, youth, teen, adult performances, just kind of a jack of all trades theater that really activated our downtown. So Julie's going to take over just a little bit in case some of you haven't visited there or didn't recall what it was like, kind of what we were doing to get us to today.
So as Daryl mentioned, we've been running it now for 14 years, and it's been very successful in the downtown core. So we've got our Bravo Performing Arts season that operates out of the theater with music, dance, comedy, tribute, and we do amazing full-scale theater productions there as well for both adults and kids. About 80 performances a year and about an attendance of 14,000 each year. Most of the groups are touring groups from across the Northwest, and then we also served as a rental venue. And as we got more successful in performances, the rental side of the business went down because we were so active in terms of programming it. So on July 24th, 2021, the Max House caught on fire, and that resulted in some damage to the theater that was then actually, we had some smoke and water that was abated, and we actually opened back up in September of 2021. Then when that Max House was demolished in December of 2021, it caused structural damage to the theater. So that happened at the end of 2021, and then the theater was condemned and red tagged in January of 2022. So we have not been operating in that building since January of 2022. I wanted to talk a little bit about just since 14 years ago, downtown looked very different than it does now. And so we've added almost 775 units of housing to the downtown core over that period. We're excited to be opening the Postmark Center for the Arts and the Auburn Arts Alley. We just last year opened the Plaza Park across from City Hall, and then the general services that are downtown. But really, the impact to the downtown is huge in terms of economic development. And so the theater, this is an old study from 2015, American for the Arts. They're updating their study this year. I think they had a gap of a few years in there for many issues that we know about, but they're working on a new study this year. And so I'm gonna say this number is probably low, but back in 2015, the average per person audience expenditure outside of purchasing a ticket to a show was an additional $31. So it's a big economic driver of downtown having that theater there in terms of people staying in town, getting a meal, having a beverage, buying a gift, maybe getting to the event at all. And so that additional spending equates to $440,000 a year in additional spending in our downtown, in our city as a whole. And so that 14,000 people that are coming to see a show has additional direct spending. And I wanted to point out too, so we take our theater ticket sales and can query them by zip code and to tell you where people are coming from. So about 30% of our audience comes from Auburn. And then that 1 to 20 mile radius accounts for over 50%. So people are traveling to come to Auburn as well. So it's a destination point for people to come to see shows in the downtown. I'm gonna give it back to Daryl.
Yeah, so just a little bit, since that time, we've bought the property that the Max house stood on the corner. And so we own the whole corner as well as the alleyway and then the soon-to-be open Postmark Center for the Arts. And so we've had ARC consultants. They are the ones that built our community center, and they've done some theaters around the area as well as some school district facilities, at least do some early conceptual ideas under the parameters basically of increasing this capacity from about 240 to 50 seats to 300 to 310. So a slightly larger venue to get a little better return on our investment, but not so large that performance would look like the audience was so small. This is pretty common size for downtown theaters, and we think it would be real successful. A couple of our goals in this is to open it up to the corner of Main and Auburn Ave, and as well as to have loading from the back alleyway for bands and performances and linking it to the Arts Center. So they've just done a really preliminary sketch at that point, and kind of taken it to the point of how much space does the house need. We know our former stage was way undersized, and the green room behind the stage, it was terrible. But it wasn't designed to be a theater. Everybody did the best with what we had, and it worked. And so we've taken a lot of the concepts that they've drawn, and we can do do it on about 10,000 square feet of that property. If you look to the right, that's also city-owned property. That could at some point either be developed as a downtown plaza, it could be sold to a developer for a different building downtown. So we don't need the whole space that we own. It could be artist lofts, it could be a lot of things. None of that has been decided. But when we talk about 10,000 feet, which we think is about the great size for what we're having, about a 25% increase over the existing theater, that's kind of how we would envision the design. I want to be really clear, we have not gone into any depth of design other than some cocktail napkins and what they did here, but we've spent a lot of time talking about it with Jim Kleinbeck, our theater coordinator, Julie, myself, and some others throughout the city regarding house and size. I found this picture on the right in a magazine years ago, and I said, man, I would love to have that in Auburn. That's the only reason it's there, because I found it in a magazine. On the left is 3 pictures of just kind of some really cool corner entrances that you see in other communities that they've brought out their corners. And we have the old front of the theater now, which I think is really cool. And is there a way to either restore that or make it happen again so that people remember the old Ave? And build something that was synonymous with our downtown and kind of how it's changing. On that corner, we're probably looking at a 2-story building for the theater and probably a rake seating down to maybe, I think you can go about 5 feet underground is about all in our downtown. So it'd probably be a mid-entry theater with some seats down and up, and then the actual stage. So hopefully we can get to a design. Do we go to next steps, or do you have one? And we're going to talk a little bit Matt's going to speak to their project, because it has a real impact on what we're looking at doing, because it basically surrounds the theater site.
Yeah, so this project, we're calling it the Downtown Infrastructure Improvement Project. It's budgeted to upgrade some of the utilities within the area, underground utilities, water main, sewer main. We're also doing surface improvements, new roadway, sidewalks, curb and gutters, all within the downtown standard designs that we have that you see around town. There's an example of intersection there at Main Street, right out here, and the black decorative traffic signal lights, the pedestrian lighting, all decorative. The red brick pattern curbs and sidewalks around the intersections. And so, like I said, underground utility improvements includes the sidewalk, curb and gutter. We're also doing a new traffic signal there at Auburn Ave in Main Street. It's one of our oldest signals in the downtown area. And then also upgrading the surface and doing some utility work within the B Street Plaza. And And then I show an example of some overhead string lighting that we are proposing for this project as well. Make nice, beautification downtown, make it nice and walkable, very inviting atmosphere. And that it, like Daryl said, this whole infrastructure improvement project really does play into what the design of the theater. And so that's why they brought me in is to sort of coordinate this improvement project with the theater project, just to make sure that everything is seamless and that they're communicating together. And as of right now, the budget for the infrastructure project does include demolishing the existing theater and then starting some schematic design of the new theater as well. And go into a little bit more detail about budget later.
Yeah, so we're going to a little bit here about community support, but I want to start with our council retreat that we did up at Green River College, and there was a lot of really important items in the city. We talked about homelessness, huge need, public safety, downtown revitalization came up numerous times, and I think that we all shared a common goal in all of those things. So there's a lot of pressing needs in the city that we sure understand, but I thought it was, I was excited at that thing to know that we all share a vibrant downtown is important. Great parks are important, public safety is important, good schools are important, but a vibrant downtown really makes a difference. And when we went through this, right after that, we applied to the state for a grant that we were successful at getting for just short of $1.5 million. And a lot of that was because of, if you see these letters on the right, we asked some of our people, from electeds to business owners to community people who've partnered with us over the last 15 years about the theater. And it was so easy to get these letters of support, and immediately through the state, our success was outstanding. It was great to get that size of a grant to kind of kick off our plan for this theater. We can't spend that money until a spending plan is in place for the theater, and we're going to be working with Jamie and our finance department, and we'll be coming forward at some point with a proposal as to how can we put this together. We don't have that plan yet. We have a couple of ideas. But we're going to be using, we also received a grant from King County for $100,000 that we're going to be using for an engineered study, value engineer a plan, so we can come back with like a number that we think is pretty accurate based on an approximate 300-seat theater. When we were working with ARC, they took a very first, just a quick glance at it with no details, and a cost company, DCW, I believe it was, that came back with an estimate of somewhere around $8 million. We've seen others built for less. I've seen really fancy ones built for more, but we think it's going to end up being in that $7-9 million range, plus other costs, probably 10 in the total by the time you put in taxes and A&E and all that stuff. So we don't have a plan for that yet. We've come up with a few ideas, such as park impact fees could pay for some, perhaps real estate excise taxes, reprioritizing ARPA funds, going to the voters, naming rights. There's just a ton of options and opportunities that haven't been fine-tuned, but our next step will be working with Matt as well on coming up with a design that we're all comfortable with, and then a value engineered cost, so we have something to shoot for as we go for these other opportunities. And that's what we'll be using the $100,000 King County grant. We also have the money from the insurance claim that we'll be putting towards this project as well, because it's going to take some pre-design before we can actually get to the work. Yeah, we have one more slide. It's the Julie slide.
Oh, this is I threw this in here because
There's Julie's slide. She
It's
dreams
like
way bigger than me.
the corner entrance with, the park on top, and the downtown. So just me dreaming. We saw this from another city actually when we were working on our park plan, and I want that downtown. So
I don't want those background buildings.
well,
Just
not
like
the background buildings, but just the cool concept of like a gathering spot and a green space on top of buildings is appealing.
I think one of our goals out of like tonight is just first off updating you, but also getting concurrence that you want us to move forward, that there's a shared passion for it, and also so that we can continue to update our website. We have a sign out there that says contact us for new news. And we really need to keep the community engaged as well, because it's not good when you're driving down there and Nancy gives me a call now and then saying, oh, the weeds are getting kind of tall in the lot, because our park staff doesn't think of that lot as a place to go weed. But we don't want to be those people, so hopefully we share a passion for getting this done, and I have confidence that we're going to figure out how to get it done. Any questions?
Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Rakes.
Of course I do. Although I have to say, I really like Julie's idea with the little park on top because we need that downtown.
We do. Well,
We
we could
do
use
like
that
that.
extra 2,000 square feet, make it a little park.
Yes, I absolutely love that. I also would love if we could at least save the lighted sign and put on the front.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic. I have a question about the lighting that you have on your slide. Is that for the B Street Plaza?
Oh, so the overhead string lights, so that would be, the initial thought there is string across Main Street and continue that into the B Street Plaza, so it's kind of
I love that because I will go with the trees that are lit up down there.
We're looking at how to do that in the Arts Alley as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
back there.
And what was my other question? I had so many questions, I can't remember. Okay, I'll let somebody else ask a question.
Councilmember Baldwin.
I'll do one, we can go back and forth.
Uh-oh.
No, all good, all good. This is very exciting, and my question would be, if we were to consider something like what Julie's presenting, would that provide additional potential revenue if we had a functional roof space that could also be rented out to groups and organizations?
I think if we went that route, we definitely want to value engineer that as well to see if your return on investment, if you're looking at it as a dollar investment or as a community amenity investment. Because I don't have I don't know if it costs an extra $1 million to put a park on a roof versus whatever, but I know that ARC, for instance, and Jones & Jones have done quite a few projects that are park-like on roofs of various facilities. Same with Burger Partnership, who did our little plaza across the street, have done some in Seattle.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I like Julie's idea too.
Gonna get in trouble for tossing that slide in there at the end.
I like the picture, the first one where it's on the corner, just like you have here, and have the sign like it says, the plaza, just have Auburn Theater, I love that design on that, like yours,
Yeah, thank you.
right in the corner. That would be really awesome. Be the first thing people would see and walk up to.
Yeah, one of the reasons for, as you know, if you're coming westbound on Auburn or on Main Street, there's some real site visibility issues on that corner if you want to turn right or whatever. And so the Public Works project is, one of our goals is to bring the corner back so that when people are at intermission or whatever, they can kind of flow out of a theater onto a widened sidewalk and also improve the visibility issues that are on that corner.
And
Councilmember Baldwin.
Yeah.
Talk to me about parking for our 300 guests that'll be attending the event.
It'll be similar to the parking for the 240 guests we used to have,
Okay.
which is most of our events and activities are in the evening, but the city's also going to be pushing for some other parking projects in the downtown that this will benefit from, and also I think we need a larger parking plan as well in our downtown, because obviously 300 guests makes a difference. But we do own quite a few surface lots down there that in the times that the theater's typically operating is when those lots aren't so full. And it coexisted in the past 3 years, but I think we have to do better with it and also get our audience to understand that even parking at the garage by City Hall, it's only 2 blocks. If you're 2 blocks from a theater in Seattle, you're thrilled. So we have to have a little bit of a mentality change too. And on the way, you're gonna walk by some fine restaurants and bars.
There you go. Any other questions, Council? Councilmember Rakes.
This is just a comment to Julie. So I was just back in Boston, and for the main streets across the United States, the big thing is the parks on top. And so I did take some pictures of some back there. I don't know how good they are, I'll share them with you, but that is a big trend right now, is to have the parks on top of the building. So I just wanted to share that.
I like it just because in a downtown space, there's not a lot of green.
Right.
And we hear that a lot from a park. It'd be nice to have a green space.
Councilmember Chapman.
You already saw my hand up. Thank you. Also, the lighting, is that gonna go, you said you're gonna go down the alley?
We're waiting till the demolition of the theater, because
Yeah.
originally through the
For culture.
For culture landmarks, they gave us the okay to attach to the building, we had the theater was ours. And then we have power now out of the postmark building for those lights, we added when we did this construction. But until the existing theater is down, then we'll put posts up probably along that edge and do similar lighting through there. It was kind of part of, remember years ago, we did the what was it?
Study,
Yeah,
livable
the
city
Livable
study.
cities thing,
yeah.
that's kind of been the impetus behind the alleyway project, and that was a piece of it, so we hope to add lighting through there too.
And the lighting on Main Street, is that gonna come all the way, or is it just going to be right in, how far is the lighting's gonna go down Main Street?
We haven't done the design of this yet, so the design actually starts, the next steps of this project is to get a consultant on board and then start that design process. So we haven't nailed down the extent of the overhead lighting, but what I think the envision is it would start at like Auburn Ave intersection and then head towards B Street Plaza on Main and then down the B Street Plaza.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Baldwin.
Yes, so one of the things I was gonna recommend, could be of interest as you guys are working on design and planning is, I know McCall Hall up in Seattle had recently gone through a pretty extensive renovation and redesign of the full facility. And it might be worth calling over to say, hey, you know, you guys just did it, any recent lessons learned or any certain changes that maybe they did from a design perspective, if there's new technology for all the different components that go into the stage mechanics and bringing sets in and out and that type of thing. It just might be worth reaching out to those guys for a quick, hey, we're about to tackle something smaller, but you know, what would you share?
Yeah, I know that the alleyways are a real benefit to us when you're loading and unloading sets and vans, that we actually have that space. And the way it was now, it was like a little double door, you had to get everything in and out, it was very bad.
Oh, that's all.
Councilmember Riggs.
I just have a question on what have you talked about improvements on B Street Plaza other than the lighting?
We've talked about basically a full refresh of the hardscape out there. So right now it's kind of tired. So as part of the project, we have to dig through it for the utility upgrades, and so it would be all new surface restoration as well.
And if I can add to that, because I think I know what your question is about.
Yeah.
The intent is to get rid of the sand set pavers and do probably some sort of hard concrete or other so that it can be cleaned better.
Councilmember Chapman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't have a question, but I do want to comment on your stage. I love the idea of having the wordings on the stage in the different languages
Oh, yeah.
and the
alleyway,
landscaping.
that was really
It
nice.
is so cool. I just had to share that with you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Baldwin.
I think you can tell we're all very excited. The last piece I was gonna bring up, at least at the moment I can think of, is in the facility itself. One of the things that I think of, as you had also shown, are different downtown residential facilities, right? It's just making sure that we have accommodations. Of course, the standard requirements for ADA compliance, but I've also seen some things recently that might make the facility even more available or welcoming to folks in the community. So people think about changing tables, and at first it was getting changing tables out in the community, then getting them in the men's bathroom, and now I've actually seen something that's changing tables that can support adults. So if you've got a significant other or an adult dependent that you need help with those things. So I know that we do a lot in Parks and Rec to make sure that we're including everybody, and so if we can maybe accommodate that in our bathroom facilities would be really helpful, just as a consideration.
It's definitely one of the big detriments of the existing theater or the, any of the, I mean, when something's not designed for a specific purpose, it's just,
It's hard to
is
catch
what
it up
it
to
is,
code.
it is.
Yeah.
And we had a huge kitchen in there as a dinner theater, and all we needed was like a popcorn popper. So I mean, it was really designed differently, and that'll be a great opportunity here to get the right things in the right box.
Councilmember Eggs.
This is more of a comment to Councilmember Baldwin. So when you talked about renting that upper space out, another good alternative is the Postmark, the new one. They have a beautiful, I just toured a rental that you can rent inside that space, so people kind of coordinate with.
So on September 16, we expect to see you all there at the ribbon cutting.
11
there-
a.m. to 3 p.m.
Lots of great art activities in the alleyway, and we're closing down. We got a right-of-way permit from Amber, so we're good to go. We'll be closing down Auburn Ave in front of the building. It's gonna be a really nice celebration. And later that evening, you can go out to the Mary Olson Farm for hops and crops and top it off with a little beer, a little bit of marketing from your Parks Director.
Council, any other questions?
Are tickets still available for hops and crops?
The pre-sale is done, but tickets at the site are still available.
Very good.
Gonna have to get a shuttle.
There is a shuttle. And Luzio is this weekend. It's an amazing light show out there if you get a chance to go. Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing to be marketing my own programs.
Thank you very much for the dream that we have. It looks really good, and looks like the council is excited about it. Please carry on with your work on
Thank you.
this. We really appreciate you coming down and giving us what the dream is, and we'll just support you in any way we can. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Council, we've come to, sorry, any other questions, Council, first of all? No? Keep yourselves hydrated next few days. Other than that, we've come to the end of our council study session. This meeting is now adjourned.
James Larry reminded me our